the Petronius selection of the Component 2, Superstition and Magic, for your GCSE Latin course. The title for this extract, not just these 5 lines, but the full extract, the title for it is A Spooky Story. The character tells a spooky story in this extract, but actually in these first 5 lines he's just setting the scene. So, let's start by thinking about this. A friend in need is a friend indeed. A saying in English, right? What does this saying mean? Do you agree with it? If you want some time to think about it, you can hit the pause button. Right, to me, what this saying tells me is that if someone is in a spot of trouble and you know them, or you know them well, that would be a good time to help out. And that proves that you have a genuine friendship. And I think because friends are there to help each other, it's a matter of trust, it's a matter of building that strong relationship. I do think there is a point to this saying. I feel that, hopefully I'm in a position where if someone does need some help, that I know I can provide that help to them, and hopefully they can do that for me as well. But why would you do it? And when might someone provide help? For opportunistic reasons. Well, you might do it because actually you feel that relationship has meant something to you and you want to help someone. Perhaps you feel that other people should help you when you're in that situation, so you do it because you want to have that help back, either at some point or either when you need it. And you might say that's what friends are for, which is fair enough. Would someone provide help for opportunistic reasons, though? I think if you don't know someone and they're there to offer help, sometimes it's worth it to be a little bit wary, because they might have reasons other than the good ones for offering for help. I suppose that's the matter with trust, really. If you know someone for long enough, then you know that you can trust them, they've done things to make you feel that way. But if it's someone who you've only just met, then you might not necessarily feel that way. We're going through the coronavirus crisis at the moment, and there are a lot of people signing up to volunteer. And I think in crises like these, it really brings the best out of the community and out of people who might be strangers otherwise. But sometimes it also offers an opportunity for people to offer to help, whereas actually they're trying to take advantage of your situation. Like maybe they're trying to get money off you when they say they'll do shopping for you, or maybe they'll try and come into your house and steal something. I don't want to sound paranoid. I suppose we all have our sixth sense, and sometimes we can make judgment like this. But sometimes help is offered not necessarily for the nicest reasons. Now, I'm just providing a sort of context to the bits that we're learning there. And I think to understand why I've explained that, it would be good to know what the text says, lines 1 to 5 of this text. So if you're distant learning, you need to open the following now before you go on. The Online Text Explorer on the Cambridge Schools Classics project, somewhere where you can type your translation, the student's booklet, and the video. But you've already got this video on because I'm talking to you. On the video, what happens next is that I explain through the passage to you bit by bit. But as a stretch and challenge, if you feel confident enough, then you could just open the Online Text Explorer and see if you can translate it. By and large, actually, the grammar here is reasonably simple, and the imperfect subjunctive you've met since stage 24, and that's probably the hardest bit of grammar that you have here. So you should be happy to give it a go if that's what you want. But otherwise, what follows is a guided translation by me of the first 5 lines using the online text explorer. Right, here's the student study booklet that's available to you, and you might want to have it out easily accessible, even if it's just a digital version of it. We're going to start with Petronius, which is on 25. What happens if I click on it? There we are. So that's the first section. Now I'm going to set it up so that I can go through the passage with you with the text or the interactive text explorer side by side with where you can type the answer in. So I'm going to open the interactive text explorer now. Make sure I click on Petronius and put that to one side. Now, I mean, in this class we use OneNote, so I would suggest on the other half of your screen, if you can, have OneNote available. But for the purpose of demonstrating this video, I'm going to use a Word document to type the translation in. And we're going to translate the first 5 lines in this section, so that's what we will do. Yeah, are we ready? I think so. Let's make a start then. So, one thing I want you to pay attention as we go through this video is the accusatives that are there. So, accusatives. When we learn them in stage 2, in the singular, they tend to have an M ending, and the reminder of accusatives is that they tend to show object. They are a direct object. What that means is they're having the verb done to them. So, sometimes it just follows a preposition. So bear those two things in mind. So it ends in an M in the singular form. Okay, let's make a start then. The first word is cum. In stage 24, we've learned that cum can mean when, and I'm going to tell you now it means when. Cum, when. You can see the definitions below there. Adhuc, still. So adhuc, still. And then servirem, it's a verb. It's an imperfect subjunctive. So if you click on it, imperfect subjunctive, and it means be a slave. So when I was a slave. Now you need to think about where to put that in at this point. So what I'd probably do is say when I was still a slave. First 3 words done. Oh, I've forgotten to read the first sentence first. I'm so sorry. So let me just read it. Cum adhuc servirem amare coipi melissam uxorem terenti calponis pucerimum bacibalum. There we are. When I was still alive, amare, infinitive to love, coipi. Coipi, I began. Okay, so I began to love. Notice, sometimes we see the infinitive first in Latin, but it actually gets translated second. I began to love Melissam. Well, Melissa, clearly. An accusative singular there. She's the person being loved, right? You've then got in the next 2 bits, 1 bit after comma, 2 bits after comma, you've got some accusatives there which must go with Melissa, so we get more information about Melissa. Firstly, uxorem terenti calponis. Uxorem, wife, accusative singular. Terenti, Terence or Terentius, genitive singular, and calponis, innkeeper, genitive singular. So what do you reckon it is? And remember, you can always pause the video if you want some time to think. What do you reckon that bit means? It means the wife of Terentius the innkeeper. So that's 1 bit of information about Melissa. What's the next bit? It says pucerimum bacibalum. In this case, both are accusative because it ends in N. Poker is beautiful, or you can say pretty in this case. It's a superlative. And bacibalum, a little peach. Makes it quite cute when you say little something, doesn't it? Okay, so what else is she? She is also a very pretty, or what I might say is a most pretty little peach, like Princess Peach. You can almost imagine Mario coming in to rescue her. Mamma mia. Anyway, what's the next sentence? We can go on from there. We've done our first sentence together. Isn't that great? We've revised something from stage 24 as well, and we've picked up some accusatives. Next sentence starts with huius. Huius contubernalis ad vilam supremum diem obit. Okay. Huius contubernalis, they go together. So this is genitive singular, it means this. They don't go together. Sorry, my fault. Contubernalis is nominative. So partner. So I reckon that means huius means of this, but in this case it's best translated as her. Contubernalis is her partner. And then you've got ad, which is a preposition. With words like ad, you may as well take the word afterwards. So say ad vilam. To the country house. I wonder if it's better to say at a country house in this case. Right. And then you've got supremum. Supremum diem obit. In this case, it's taken the whole three words in one go. It says met, that's obit. Supremum diem, met his last day. So her partner met his last day at presumably his country house, I'm guessing. Right, second sentence done. I haven't left enough moments to pause and just for you to think about a sentence, have I? So sorry about that. I'll try harder to make sure that happens. Sentence number 3 then. In fact, we won't do the whole sentence, we'll go up to a colon for now. Itaque per scutum per ocream egi aginavi quaem ad modum ad ilam pervenirem. I just want to check the Word document not the Word document, the PDF quickly to see. Okay, yeah. So all the words still seems to be making sense, and we can turn to page 2 now in the other document. Okay. So we start with itaque. Itaque? I'm deliberately pausing so you can tell me what it means. You should have met this word before. Itaque and so. Per. Now remember, per goes with the word after it. So per means through. Scutum is, well, you've got per scutum, per ocream. Don't think you've met these words before, but what it means is by all possible means. Okay, I just want to go into this bit a bit deeper in case you think, how could it mean that? This is our PDF, isn't it? Oh, it doesn't say. That's a shame. Okay, it literally means by shield. That's the scutum part, and by ocream, which I can't remember. By grief, by shield or by grief. So I suppose it's referring to all the defenses that is available to one person, and that's a Roman saying for by any possible means. Okay, and so by any means, by all possible means, agi, that comes from ago. Agi means, okay, I acted. and aginawi means I plotted. And so by all possible means I acted. I wondered whether we should put that here, whether we should put I acted here. You make that decision. I'm going to leave it just where it was because the verb in Latin are together and I want to put the verbs in English together as well. So I acted, I plotted. I put a comma there to make it make sense in English. Quem ad modum is the next word. In how, like in what way literally. Ad ilam, ad ilam. Ad means to, ilam means that person, feminine, so to her, ad ilam to her. And then the verb probably goes here, doesn't it? I thought of how pervenirem. Pervenirem means I reach, how I reach. Perhaps you might say in English how I would reach her. It fits in with the fact that this is subjunctive as well. Okay, so this bit all down, itaque down to pervenirem, and so by all means, of all possible means, I acted. I plotted how I would reach her. Okay, and then nam in angustis amici apparent. Nam means because or for. In angustis, we're taking the word in with the next word. In angustis, in emergency or in difficult situations. Okay, next word is amici, your nominative, your subject of the sentence there. Amici means, I'm not even going to click on it. For friends, apparent. What do friends do in emergencies? Apparent. You might see the English definition appearing through the Latin spelling there. Appear, for friends, appear in emergencies. Okay, first 5 lines done. Hope you found that okay. A few things we can spot before we move on from here. Can you remember that Melissa? What Latin words describe who Melissa is, or how is Melissa described? Well, the word uxorem agrees with her, so it tells you that she is the wife of Terentius, who's an innkeeper. These two words also are accusative singular and agrees with her, and they mean a most beautiful little peach. Okay, right. The other thing is we've had 2 imperfect subjunctive in these 5 lines. Can you find out what the 2 imperfect subjunctives, actually 3, sorry, what the 3 imperfect subjunctives are? To give you a clue, they are formed by having the infinitive and then an ending right at the end of the infinitive. So ending plus infinitive. Alright, so you might have worked out that they are servirem, so servire is the infinitive plus m. You've also got, so that meant I was a slave. Pervenirem, I would arrive. In this case, pervenire infinitive plus m ending. Yes, I think that's it. Sorry, did I say there's 3? There's only 2. My fault. I thought apparent was, but it's indicative, apparently. Okay, what's happening in this passage? Basically, the main character of this story has hatched a plot to try to get to know better a girl that he fancies. And the fact that her partner died, the fact that Melissa, the girl who he fancies, her partner died, presents two opportunities in two ways. One is the fact that, well, she's now single, I suppose. The other part is the fact that actually in this situation, normally someone close come by to comfort her. So I wonder whether he spotted an opportunity to get to know her better in this situation. And what the author's intentions are in writing this. What sort of effect is he trying to have on you as a reader when he writes this passage? Towards the end of the translation, I think I've suggested some of these already. Here's a recap. Right, so a character called Niceros. I haven't really introduced him earlier, but he's called Niceros, and he's the one telling the story. So Petronius, the author, is having a character telling a story, and so it's like a story within a story. There are several layers to this. That's the context. Okay, he's setting the scene. So remember, this whole module is about superstition and magic. You haven't got any of them yet because he hasn't gone on that journey to find Melissa. And once he does, you get a bit of superstition and magic, I promise. But here, he's just setting the scene for the story. He's reminiscing about one of his past love interests. Okay, so what sort of effect might he need to have in making sure that he do these things well? You need to provide a context to the upcoming superstition and magic bit that you're about to meet in the next few lessons. Okay, so that the audience feel like they're part of the story that he's telling. You need to remind himself of what he's talking about. Now, technically he doesn't, because Petronius is writing this, so he could think without putting, I was going to say putting pen to paper. I suppose that's true. Putting a brush, a stylus to papyrus. He doesn't have to think. But Niceros here is, in quotation mark, telling a story. And you know, when you start telling a story, logically, you might have to think back and try and buy you some time to establish your head into that situation. And here, as he sets the scene, he's actually doing the same thing as you would do when you tell a story of your own experience. He's trying to bring himself as the speaker, as the narrator of the story, to that period where this happened. So he lays the scene for you, the audience, and he lays the scene for himself, so he can tell the story more effectively. And he is talking about love. When I say it was clearly a lovely thought, I meant that it was lovely to him. I don't quite mean it sarcastically or anything like that. It was a lovely thought in that he was reminiscing, and it was a good bit of memory. You can see that through some of the language he uses. Okay, so that's the intention of the author, and whatever he does, whatever features or stylistic features he does, it's important to bear this in mind, because when we answer questions about what the author includes and how he writes his text, we need to know what he's trying to achieve. So, how does Niceros, or Petronius, the author, through Niceros, the character, how do they make this text effective? How do they carry out their intentions well? Well, I'm going to give you a bit of time to just have a look and see if you can find these examples in the text. Right, I'm going to go through some of the techniques that I found in the first 5 lines of the text here. I'm going to start by identifying them and then explaining them. If you want a bit more time to do it yourself first, do use the pause button. So at first, I'm just going to tell you where I found these things first, these list of points, and then I'll try and explain why the author might have used it. So my list is not exhaustive. You might have found different things. They may be equally valid. If you're unsure, just send it in, let me know, and I'll have a look at it. Okay? Equally, you might disagree with me. That's absolutely fine too. Again, if you want to check, just send it in, and I'll have a look. So, lack of conjunction. The obvious one, well, the obvious one here is actually here. Agi and aginawi. There's two verbs together, so I acted and I plotted. You would normally expect there to be a comma or an et. Although actually, to be fair, Romans didn't necessarily write with commas, so I don't know if that's... Well, still, there's no and. The other parts might be per scudem, per ocream, by by any possible means. You might have expected an et here again, although this being a saying, maybe it just goes without an et. In any case, there's no conjunction. Back to the first point. You could also argue that here there's two description of Melissa, so therefore there should be a comma. There should be an et here, but clearly there's no et, and whoever's edited this text have chosen to put a comma there to make it easier for us to translate. Just at this point, the second bullet point here says details about the characters. We get to know quite a bit about Melissa here and what her situation are. The third bullet point as well, it mentions about him being, or her, sorry, Melissa being a little peach. Sometimes there are some colloquial saying here to really emphasize the point, like per scutum, per ocream, by any possible means. And then a sort of life maxim. When it says a succinct expression that teaches you some life lessons, I appreciate that's quite hard to understand what I'm trying to say there. But what I'm referring to is this last point. Petronius does this a lot. There's just these little sayings that you can almost carry around with you, and you find it useful in certain situations, like in angustiis amici apparent. In difficult situations, friends appear. Or maybe in English you can make it more colloquial. Friends will appear when you're in a tight spot. Or at the start of the PowerPoint, we suggested a friend in need is a friend indeed. Maybe actually this would be quite a good translation here, or at least to bear in mind, because in the exam you do need to show that you understand what the translation is doing, so you can't be too creative. But what I've suggested might almost be a more natural translation, something that you aspire to when you're translating at A-level or university level, or even now perhaps. And then actually in this little bit there's a repetition of A sound as well. Perhaps it's to emphasize... Oh, I'm explaining my effects. Can I do that yet? Alright, if you're ready for me to explain why the author does that, then let me do it. There's repetition of A points. We're starting with the last one, repetition of vowel sound or assonance. Repetition of A point, perhaps to emphasize the word amici, which would mean that in this case it will make this little saying more effective, this little maxim more effective. Why do you want to have this maxim more effective? If it's like a life motto for you, you want it to be easy to remember. So I suppose in this case, Petronius quite liked teaching little life lessons, and maybe he wants to make sure that you bear in mind this little saying a lot. And maybe he wants you to bear in mind that because he wants to portray the character who's telling the story. He wants you to think of Niceros, this character, who's telling the story, as someone who is value friends a lot, or who knows a lot about life, whose feet are on the ground. Earlier on, we had a colloquial saying like per scrutum, per ocream, by any possible means, like by means fair or foul, might be one way of doing it. I think sometimes when you say things in a certain way, people just get you. Like if you say it's raining a lot, like that's not terribly imaginative, but if you say it's raining cats and dogs in English, then you kind of get it, don't you? Or if you say it's Groundhog Day, here it's like that sort of saying. Well, having that saying then makes it easier for Romans to understand exactly what he's trying to say. So what is Niceros trying to say? He's trying to say that he really loves this girl, I suppose. He really loves Melissa, and this shows the determination that he has to get to meet with this girl. So he's painting a very vivid picture back then. He's also showing what sort of person he is. Yeah, so that bit, there's no ets as well, partly because it's part of a saying, but there's no ets between agi and aginawi, so between I acted and I plotted. In fact, he acted before he plotted. The verb comes before it. Maybe it's to show how urgent his actions were, or how eager he was to get started. He's so eager that he acted before he plotted. Not sure if that's a good idea, but the text reflects the impulse that Niceros is experiencing. Okay, the word little peach is used. In fact, in Latin, it's little berry. Bacca is a berry. If you make something, like if you add the word little in it, it just kind of makes it a bit cute, doesn't it? Sometimes if you do it, it might be like patronizing and you're deliberately doing it. But yeah, if you make something little, look at that little doggy over there. Okay, I'm rubbish at giving examples, but you get the point. It's a term of endearment. What I mean is, he's really fond of Melissa, so I suppose calling her a little berry, it, it just has that sweet, nice image to it. And that sweetness comes from the idea of a berry as well. I guess in English you might say honey. That's quite sweet, isn't it? And that's something that you might use in a romantic context. Yeah, I think that's all the examples I can think of. And he goes on into details about the characters, perhaps to paint the scene, so that he remembers the story better. Although it might just be that Petronius wants to make you think that his character is long-winded and wouldn't stop talking, which is probably a good time for me to stop talking about these things. Okay, you will notice that we haven't really had any superstition and magic yet. What Mr. Lee is trying to do is to create suspense, alright? He's hooked you in with the topic of superstition and magic, and then, for the first 5 lines, he's not giving it to you, because, it'll be too easy, yeah? But that's not why Petronius is doing it. Petronius has his characters set the scene to give you a sense of normality here, so that when something surprising does happen, it'll be more of a shock. And I suppose if you think about it, he's trying to say that this is quite a normal situation. So it could happen to anyone. Like anyone could be falling in love and then be about to make a journey, right? Okay. The way he describes about the partner of Melissa dying and having opportunities is kind of a little bit funny. And Petronius does try to be a bit of a comedian, but there is some sort of normality in the situation that he's experiencing as well. So there'll be superstition and magic, and for now there's suspense. What impression do you have of Niceros so far? Well, I'll leave this question up for you for a few seconds to think. If you want more than a few seconds, press the pause button. Make sure you try and pinpoint, try and pick out some evidence from the passage to help you as well. And if you want some possible answers, you might want to think that he's romantic, aspirational, or regretful. But before I tell you more about why I think that, again, try and, if you haven't been able to think of these points before, or you haven't thought of these ones. Try and see why Mr. Lee might think that by looking at the passage. Okay. You might think he's romantic because everything in the story only happens because he has this need to go and get to know Melissa better. So he's doing things for love. And that is pretty romantic, isn't it? Perhaps he's a bit blind to all things as well. He only has the girl in mind. You might say he's aspirational because he was a slave. Presumably he's now freed, and he wants to start a family of his own. There's a very little clue to pick out there. I think it's the third word of the passage. So weird. I was a slave. So that might give you the idea. You might suggest he's a bit regretful as well. Now I'm not entirely sure about that, but there's just, I don't know if he sounds a bit sad when he thinks back to it. That's why I suggest it's regretful. But that one is a little bit hard to read from the text. So maybe we could give that one a miss. Is there any way of explaining that? Probably not. Okay, well, this is the first 5 lines of Petronius. I hope you found this video helpful.